Hello, Narnach here. Welcome back to Grim Dawn. We are playing in the Ashes of Malmouth expansion. And today we're gonna continue in the Arkovian Undercity where we were about to go last time. But before we head over there, there's a couple of small things that I discovered in between episodes. One of them is we managed to get a respected status with the fine folks here in Devil's Crossing. And one new blueprint that got added with the expansion is the relic Gluttony, which is so cool that I actually crafted it and we are using it. It has a chance to trigger on attack and it does a wave of vitality damage of which a quarter gets leached as life or converted to health. So we have a pretty decent heal that triggers on attacks, which definitely helps us a lot with our sustain. I ended last episode by crafting a sanctuary which has a damage shield. The thing is, you need to get hit by a critical hit if I'm remembering correctly, and I playtested around with it for a little bit and it just never really went off because you need to get hit pretty substantially in order for it to go off. So it's maybe there when you really need it, but most of the time it's not there. So the upside of Gluttony is that A, it does a lot of damage, B, it does a lot of damage, and C, it actually helps us heal and it is proactive. If we are being aggressive, it helps us heal. So if we're just charging into a group of enemies, it helps us stay alive while we are in the most dangerous of situations. So I found this to work much better in the playstyle that we're going for. So it is definitely a keeper. So Devil's Crossing, once you get access to respected status, you can buy the blueprint. Another thing, there is an illusionist in the game and I completely looked over it, but it is actually this fine person that's hiding down here with the mask over their head and the fine top hat.
Looking for a new you?
And you can change your gear here, and if you have illusion something, you get this nice blue eye icon over there, and it's pretty simple. You just click on the look of something that you want and look, it looks different. And you can just nicely preview what it would look like. And now, for example, the monster infrequents have custom graphics. So here we got the slift tongue that you can find in one of the caves in Act 1. We got a madness that has a really red glow and it seems to drip some blood. And now we've got an aether bow here that has a nice greenish glow. Now you just you see the price here of what you want to equip. If you the price seems to go up with the level of the items, probably because this is just a nice money sink in the game. And the more items you find, the more pages get added, and items do have the player level requirement that the original item has attached to them. So you can't start out looking like you are wearing endgame gear while you're just wearing other trash. But I'm gonna pretend we got Aether Bow here over. It's just cosmetic, it doesn't do anything with the stats, but I think it looks shiny. And now here as well, but now we just have a nice dark outfit rather than just a mishmash of just weird looking gear. Also, in the playtesting I did find a new item that has a modifier to a skill. This time it is for the Shadow Strike skill, which is of the Nightblade class, and it is 100% piercing damage is converted to acid damage and 20% reduced skill cost. So if you're playing a Shadow Strike build, daggers will drop, or maybe other items as well that will drop, that allow you to change the damage type, and therefore it might fit in. No, acid is something that you can inflict with an occultist, for example. So shadow or a nightblade occultist is something that maybe would be unlocked via this option, while otherwise you might have conflicting damage types. So just a small thing.
Good price on what I've got left.
So with that out of the way, let's actually get to some gameplay while I just keep talking about other things. So we ended up in the Twin Falls last time. Some priesties here. Wonderful, nice and quiet. So One of the things that changed in between episodes is that we actually got our first patch for the expansion. 1.0.2.1 is the patch number. And it's dropped somewhere on Saturday after the expansion was released. Hello there. Lots and lots of bugs. Let's preemptively buff our minions a little bit. Most importantly, give them a little bit of a regen. But one of the nice things about the... Ooh, another blueprint. Adept grips. Bit of elemental damage, some casting speed, lightning bolt on hit. When you get hit, so there's a like a counter-strike lightning bolt. Okay, cool. Right, so I'm gonna go into the bug hive first, and then we're gonna go into the cave with lots and lots of undead. But yeah, patch. For our build, relevant. The skeletons, their damage numbers got changed a little bit. And so the tooltip currently has a higher number as listed for the ancient weapons than it did before. Reason for that is that it used to be in the launch version of the game, the skeletons' damage was for the majority determined by the random weapon that they got assigned. So there was a large amount of variance in the damage that your minions did, because random weapons could be like really low level Act 1 weapons, or they could be level appropriate level weapons. Devs realized that might not have been the most ideal thing to do, because it's nice to have a little bit more reliable damage. So now the majority of damage is just determined based on the level of the skill, and only a very small component is now determined by the weapon. So there's a lot less variance. So minion damage output should be a little bit more consistent. And also the archers, they used to be much too powerful early on, so that has been addressed a little bit as well via this, because it's now just scales linearly. But no, as you can see, the archers, they still kick ass, pretty much. Because we're now just effortlessly tuned through minions that are a couple levels above us. Let's see. So that was the skeletons. Oh yeah, the range minions are a little bit more aggressive now, rather than hanging back and just standing around a little bit. They now proactively seek out things to shoot and destroy. Ooh, that looks absolutely yummy. Bring off our minions, do a little bit of a wave here. Okay, let's just do a little bit of damage reflection, and there we are. Okay, so standing in the middle of this, not the best of ideas. Luckily we get out, so just recast some minions, and there we are. I think there was another spawn of bees over here, or wasps. Yeah, in addition, of course, to all the things, there's a wide variety of bug fixes and things like that, and all the good stuff that you would expect from a first patch after a major new release. The stash has been overhauled a little bit. Mostly the interface of the stash has been overhauled to make it a little bit more clear how to switch between your personal stash for your character and the shared stash for all your characters, because it used to be the button in the middle of two other buttons that you had to click to toggle between them, and it wasn't all that obvious. Now you just got big buttons, one with a single character icon and one with multiple character icons to make the distinction between personal stash and shared stash, and it's well pretty difficult to miss now what is what. So that's a small improvement. Anything else? Various bugs, also bug fixes to some quests. So if you had quests that you were blocking on, or that were bounties that you couldn't complete, a hotfix most likely has fixed that. And if you were using community translations, so if you were not playing the game in English but in another language that was provided by the community, apparently there were some issues where if the translations for your language or the language that you were using, if they weren't up to date yet for the expansion, then you were missing certain bits of text, and apparently that prevented some quests from completing. So if you started the game today and your language was reset to English while you were expecting a different language, that is basically for a way for the devs to allow you to actually complete your quests. And the moment the community translations have been updated, then you should be able to just update them again via the usual channels. I have no idea. I don't use third-party translations because I just play the game in English. But no, if the translations have been updated, then you can switch back and play the game again. And I hope that for future content updates, the devs manage to put something in the game where a situation like this won't occur again, that they might just fall back to the translations only on a per case basis or something. But well, as I said, I don't use that particular feature, so I really don't know too much about it. Okay, doing pretty well here, I would say. Oh, we managed to pick up a Doomforged breastplate. Small bonus to vitality damage, little vitality resistance. How are we? Okay, so fire and lightning are pretty high up. Cold as well. So if we switch out of the old one, then we would gain a lot of armor. We would gain a small amount of vitality damage. Chaos damage we don't deal, so that doesn't matter. 5% health versus a flat bonus helps a little bit. And this would bump vitality to a more reasonable number. So let's do that. And we actually gained life. Yeah, wow, we actually gained life and we don't even have something socketed in the armor. And I must say, well, compared to what we were wearing, this doesn't look too shabby either. And the Seer's Cord is Lightning Tether and a Shattered Star. That does not sound like something we would use. Wonderful. So let's continue the journey. I think there were some folks of Order of Death's Vigil over here. Yes. So we'll just do what they ask. Don't really pay a lot of attention to exactly what they ask, but we're gonna do it anyway. Basically just kill everything inside and meet me on the other side. Well, usual kind of quest. Oh, something else. I made a couple of small changes to the skill layout. And I think I still might have some unspent points. Let's have a quick look at that as well. Yeah, still got some unspent points. So, well, I've been playtesting a little bit, just running around and gained some bonus points from that. So I put 1 point into a Blood Boil over here. It's the upgrade for Siphon Souls. So we do a large splash of damage. We leech a bunch of life. In the patch notes, Siphon Souls, the leech shear got increased to 24%. I think it was maybe around 10 or 12% before, so well, it got buffed quite a bit. And as far as I have been able to determine, the increased health regeneration by minus 30% does not apply to me. I think it applies to the enemies that we hit, so they just have reduced health regeneration while Siphon Souls is active on them. So it's a little bit of an odd skill, and that is one of the downsides of the way skill effects are phrased. Sometimes you might read something in a different way than it actually seems to apply, because I just cast it in town and I did not see my health regen go down. So yeah, this has been buffed, and this one now, the modifier to it, still converts vitality to ether damage, but the damage modifier is now increased to -15 from something that was less harsh, and it now also has a -10 to attack damage converted to health, which I don't think it used to have. So you have 6 extra seconds of duration, but you do pay a little bit of a price in terms of damage leech, but you do get elemental conversion out of it. For the rest, I don't think so, but on the shaman side I actually refunded a couple points into devouring swarm. I don't find myself using it all that often. For the life leech it turned out to be weaker than I had wanted it to be, and the gluttony relic combined with Siphon Souls does a pretty decent job of keeping me alive, so I don't need devouring swarm as a life leech skill. The reduction to vitality resistance will be useful later on when enemies get tougher and more protected, and then it's just useful to strip away a large chunk of their resistances so a lot of my damage can go through, and it's mostly going to be for the really intense boss fights where this is going to come in handy. So I just reduced this one down to 1 single point, just like on the Necromancer side. All the skills that we use only have 1 single point, with the exception of the raised skeleton line, which are about half and half maxed. And on the shaman side I bumped up the mastery bar, so we now have Mock Dragon's Pact, which is an aura, grants a bit of physical damage to everybody, so that's myself as well as the pets, but it also grants a tiny sliver of health regen and energy regen. So it's a little bit of passive stay alive for our minions. And we now have 3 extra points. Did I spend those in here last time? No, I did not. Because I would like to get the Briar Thorn, because that is going to be yet another pet. So let's actually spend a couple points advancing the bar. Then the next level, which we're going to hit really soon, will get us another pet. Okay. Onwards with some more murdering. There is a devotion shrine all the way over there that we're going to grab. Okay, then we get ambushed. Well, we have minions, so they can just do with that for a little bit. Let's just buff our minions and then clear house. Ooh, you are a frozen one. And we gain the level. Okay. Oh, we're actually down to 6 minions, so let's refresh that. Wonderful. A little bit of bonus reputation. Well, we gained the level might as well. That was 1 too many. 1, 2. Brighthorn. Sweet. Cool. So now we have another big pet with a lot of life. Damage output right now not that interesting, but no, I think that if we have a couple of large health pets running around that are actively taunting enemies, it's gonna be better gonna help us keep our skeletons alive, especially once we got some range ones and casters. So far seems to work. So let's desecrate this shrine, or cleanse this desecrated shrine. Enemies, I need enemies. There. That was surprisingly easy. Well, upside is we now have some devotion points. Last time we cleared or completed the lion. So next up is going to be the red ones for the jackal. And the reason we're doing this is to get to Typhus, the jailer of souls. And we actually have enough white points that we can refund one of the white starter nodes, so we can accelerate through here. So next time in town, refund a point, spend it on the jackal. But that's gonna be when we get it done. For now, let's just do some murder in here and fight our way through a dungeon. Yeah, I figured it would be confusing having skeletons fight skeletons, and I was absolutely right about that. It is confusing. Oh, there's a small army that popped out of the floor. Let's just scare them witless and blow them up. Good thing is my minions are completely not confused about who is friend and who is foe. They just attack the correct thing, which is fine, since it does allow a bit more confusion on my side without repercussions. Since my damage output is not going to suffer too greatly. Okay, just scaring the priest, and seems like he's not really wanting to run away. Oh, we have an unspent point here. I keep just dividing my points equally between physique and spirit. Seems to work out all right. And definitely helps with the damage output in a very much magical damage based build. Ooh, big chest. Okay. This, yeah, it stays confusing. Good thing is, it doesn't really matter. Eventually, the skeletons will stop shooting, and that's a good sign that you know that either they're dead and I have a problem, or we've won the battle and we can move on to the next scene, or it's time to pick up the loot. But oh boy, is this a difference from the soldier. It's a very, very nice difference, I must say. But what I've noticed is definitely that in tougher fights with bosses, especially bosses that have AoE abilities, those skeletons are just gonna fall down really quickly. And that's probably where being a little bit more consistent with the Cold Grave is going to be useful, because it does give some health regen to the skeletons. Having a higher level Mock Dragon's Pact is probably going to be pretty useful as well, since it just gives more passive health regen to everybody. Oh, I'm now despised by the undead. That's okay, so they are only the third faction to trigger that. That's okay, sure. More skeleton boss spawns. I approve of that. It's just more opportunities to get good loot. I do like myself some good loot. So there you see the gluttony wave. Oftentimes it coincides with a bone harvest, so it's a bit more difficult to see. Here you actually just saw it in its pure form, doing decent vitality damage, as well as leeching some life. And before the patch, I did seem to catch some of the gluttony waves triggering based on the attacks by my minions. So I'm currently not doing anything. But every once in a while, I did see a gluttony trigger. So let's stand here. Yeah. The gluttony waves are being triggered by attacks from the minions, which is pretty cool. So I'm just standing here and I'm already passively providing damage. Okay, let's take a little bit more of an active role here against Nomo's Dread Ghost Boss. And there we are. So we only lost one single skeleton, so let's do a little bit of a resummon here. We got a Wild Caller's Cowl, which is a level 30 shaman set part bit. And interestingly, 15% chance when hit to put down a Earth Ward. Yeah, that's probably a protective thing for myself, it's not an AoE. It's not like one of the other skills on the shaman, the Wendigo totem, which is, I hope this affects minions. That's one of the things that will also help with keeping the minions alive. If you're playing a sibling build of this, and instead of going with the shaman you're going with the occultist, then of course picking up the raven is going to be useful. I think it was a raven, at least the bird summon because of the heal skill. In case of a little bit more opposition than normal, just ill-omen them, then they start running. Works pretty well. Also reduces their damage a little bit. For a level 1 skill, that's not too much. If you max it out, then of course the damage reduction that you apply with it is going to be pretty nice in boss fights. Okay, that was the... I always forget, was this the way out or was this the way forward? It was the way out, that is nice. We can pick up the quest here. Find and kill her daughter. Then there is a waypoint here to tag, which is always nice to do before going deeper into the dungeon. Like so. Because then later on the way out you can just use the waypoint rather than having to walk. Now admittedly there's a little bit of nice circularity in the dungeon itself, so if you go down then anyway you can get up and then you do have an exit on this level. I think somewhere in the corner over there. But for now we just keep moving on, looking for the way down. But no, it does feel like the build is truly coming into form and things are working out pretty darn well. Loot, loot, loot. Lots and lots of loot. Is anything of it really nice? A bunch of fatality damage here though. But it's a little odd just seeing the boost to a whole bunch of different elements. And of course we don't get +2 to raise skeletons and +1 to the limit here, so yeah, come back when it's useful. Ooh, it's another one, the bonus to Shadow Strike. This one it's partial damage conversion to cold. So there might be some variants of that one fluttering about. Nothing interesting or relevant, so we'll just keep moving forward. And we still have to kill 2 other skeletons, or 2 other ghosts. So let's keep checking them off of the list. I think we might have gotten ambushed a little bit since there's just too much stuff happening behind me. But I'm just gonna move forward. Eventually the skeletons will catch up. Let's just do a little bit of a grave call to give them a boost. Then we reverse and we murder. Wonderful. The good thing is we still have 7 minions, so none of them died in the encounter. Book. I like books. They give you experience. Forgotten passage. What? A fragmented passage on all Arkovian's history. Impossible to decipher without the remaining pieces. Ah, quest item. And here I thought it was talking about a forgotten secret passage. No, like a secret tunnel. But no, it was lore for the rovers. No. Well, I got distracted by the lore. We did lose some of our minions. So some resummoning efforts are in progress. Also the other larger minions are a bit low on health, so let's do some resummoning there as well. And I think behind me there was an ancient lectern that I moved past. Too focused on enemies, not enough on quest bits. There. in my defense, it was rather subtly placed there. One more. Okay, no secrets here. So nice. Most of the builds I completely obsess over. Oh, distraction. Is that lore? That is lore. This is a blueprint I already have, so we can just sell that to a vendor. Ooh, and we are now respected with the rovers. So once we are done with this, we should also go back to town and have a quick look at what they have to offer in terms of blueprints, since they might also have a expanded selection with expansion exclusive blueprints. And some of them might even be relevant. Oh, hello there. Oh yeah, I was talking about these priests. Most of the builds I completely obsess over priests and witch doctors and things like that because they heal enemies and no, they really change the course of battle. But with this build, we're just bulldozering over them, and it doesn't really matter whether we kill priests first or priests last, because it hardly has any impact on the duration of the fight. So yeah, this is definitely a very powerful build. Okay, we'll just oh, whoa. Is that one of those classic, hey, I think I'm doing well, boom, kind of kills?
Can't do that yet.
Okay, we did lose just about all the minions. No. AoE definitely a thing that hurts us. And I do count a storm of meteors under AoE here. Ew. Vagra. Okay, let's summon all the things. And there we are. So situational awareness in regards to AoEs, bosses with AoEs, that's probably going to be useful. On the other hand, no, the tank minions, you hardly ever resummon them, so they will always be, you will always be able to just pop them back out of the grave. And the skeletons, oh, they do come 3 at a time, so even if you lose all of them, one click and you got 3, and then you just have to wait a little bit to get them back up to full strength. But no, if most of the damage is going to come from your skeletons, then you do take a bit of a short-term damage loss. So more precise timing of things like Call of the Grave is probably going to be useful there. Since if you see the projectiles coming, or if you see the AoE, especially if it's like a persistent AoE that applies a degen, calling out a Call the Grave to trigger both the damage bonus as well as the regen is gonna be useful. Wait, we came from there. Yeah. We have to be in that tunnel. I do keep just following enemies to kill rather than precisely navigating. Because eventually you'll find yourself in a place where there's no more enemies. Oh, wonderful. We get some enemies popping up behind us. And no, they did pop up in the middle of enemies, and that's when we started losing some folks. So that's probably going to be one of the things once we have a decent set of gear, and now we're going to make a little bit more conscious decisions. Minion health, minion resistances, those are probably going to be valuable things to look for specifically. On the other hand, no, what I just said, looking for minion health, things like that, that is if you value your skeletons as like valuable members of the crew that you want to keep alive at all costs. On the other hand, if you just look at them as just faceless, nameless nobodies that you can just re-raise from the ground at will, like they're literally a number of skeletons, they don't even have a personal health bar up there, then well, from that perspective doesn't really matter. They die, you summon more. And then investing in health, oh, it doesn't really fit with that strategy. Investing in more damage fits more with the strategy, because then, no, if they die, you just summon more, and no, then your damage output is going to go back up, and then the answer to enemies trying to kill your minions is applying more damage, so they die, so they cannot kill your minions. Well, so far, seems like that's not even a bad strategy. So, keep in mind, I am not playing this on hardcore. I haven't died yet. I have not even gotten... I've taken some pretty heavy beatings, but I don't think I've ever gotten into the situation where I really thought that I was dead. Well, just some close-ish calls, but the situation always felt really manageable. But now, if you're doing this on hardcore, then you might want to be a little bit more careful. So just triggered Call of Grave. We did lose our Briar Thorn here. Just trying to keep Ill Omen up. Okay, we're still losing some minions here. Call of Grave, Ill Omen. It's very difficult to see what the heck is happening. Especially because this enemy, it just appears to be like a glowing blue ball of light. It's difficult to see animations and to decipher if, based on the animations, what they're gonna do next. So some more precise spells like Mark of Torment, which you really wanna cast when the enemy is in the process of casting their powerful skills, so you can reflect them back, doesn't really work. At least not against a foe like this. Luckily, we have an advantage in numbers, and that works out rather well. Oh, it's busy enough here that we probably should just call the grave. Don't mind me, I'm just looting here. Keep carrying on fighting. There's just so many places where there are secrets next to the exit that I just reflexively just hover over them to see if I can trigger a highlight for a secret area or something, even though this one specifically doesn't contain one. It's just a habit. Okay, wonderful. So, yeah, and now we get back in... Oh, yeah, of course, we still have one more to go. Silly me, thinking we were there. No, we're not. Oh, also, we have some intruders in our back lines. Let's call the grave, just to buff things up a little bit, and then go back to the front lines. Just, omen you. Also, my bigger minions did suffer quite a bit. Against monstrosities, it's okay. They are pretty fearsome. Okay, lots and lots of green items. Very happy I did bump the loot filter up, so I'm only seeing green items. Otherwise, I probably would have made like 3 or 4 different town stops. Oh, yeah, Arkovian Tainted Soul. He's got a lot of AoE. This is gonna be fun. So let's see if I can mostly stay in his face. Yeah, purple floor seal. Let's not. simply let's not. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this is going to be one of those things that just makes it very difficult for us to fight him, since he's gonna wipe a lot of our minions and a lot of me as well if I don't play this too well. If I keep the minions behind me, then all the ranged minions hopefully are gonna behave themselves. Another AoE. Okay, there we are again. One of those circles. It's vitality damage, I think. No, purple. Not resisting that all too well. But in the end, we can simply power through. Well, 54% resistance to vitality is not quite that bad. If there was anything chaos in there, then of course it would have been a bit more painful. We did gain a level. So last time we grabbed the Briar Thorn. So for now, let's bump the skeletons. Yeah, so 1, 2, and then 1 in the skeletons. That means re-summoning them. Might as well re-summon everything. And then have a quick look. Ruined Shrine. We do happen to have a chilled steel. So we can offer that and we get ourselves another devotion point. So that is going to go into the Jackal. Jackal gives our pets a small health bonus. Emphasis on the small, not so much on the health bonus. Oh, strongbox. Okay. I always keep expecting there to be more treasure over here, but I'm confusing this with another later quest. But it's at some point the underground no brick wall areas are starting to blur through each other a little bit. Okay, and this is where the exit is and this is where the way forward is. So normally you can just walk through. We've already tagged the waypoint so we can simply portal out. So a couple things that we want to do. First of them is to go to Old Arkovia to have a look at the rovers. Because we gained reputation with them, with the respected status. So we should be able to... Oh, wrong vendor. Have a look what they offer now. I should have already bought all the pre-expansion blueprints, so anything I don't have should be new. So in this case, the Spectre relic is new. A Tormented Soul stirs within the stone. Level 25 relic. Bonus to ether damage. Energy regen, cast speed and 10% chaos resistance, and it grants an active skill called Spectral Bolt, which has a 2.5 meter radius, so presumably it explodes, and it does a boatload of vitality and ether damage, and it reduces the target's offensive ability. So this actually opens up the way for a spellcaster that uses both vitality and ether damage in an active spellcasting manner via your relic. So this is a completely different path. Whereas now I am focusing on the melee route with Bone Harvest and to a certain degree with Siphon Souls and some of the passives over here. You could just forego that and actually pick up an active ability from your relic. And another small thingamajig, because I was talking about it, might as well show it to you. And that was refunding a starter point on the devotion tree, because that's something that for a long time I didn't realize you could do it until someone mentioned it in the comments. And that is, let's take the lion here. It requires 1 white affinity, and on completion it gives you 3 white affinity. The thing is, once it gives you the 3 affinity, it no longer needs the 1 input, so to say. So I used the crossroads here to get 1 white affinity, so I could get into the lion, complete it, and then get another tree. So now we're at 4. But the thing is, I can actually refund this one, and this one is still gonna sustain itself because we are getting 3 points from this one, which does make us meet the requirements of the to actually get into it. So you can free up points that way, which is pretty neat and allows us to put another point into the juggle over here. So the next point we get is gonna complete the constellation, get us 3 points, after which I think because we only need 3 here. So once we complete the juggle, we can actually refund the red starter node again and instantly put the first point into Typhus, the Jailer of Souls, because this is gonna be a true damage bonus. Lots of vitality damage here, and especially more towards the end. This is some pretty serious vitality damage bonuses that we're gonna get from this one. But that's gonna be for another time. So, as always, I'm gonna thank you very much for watching, and I definitely hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.